going to ask our friend Garry Cobb, and we've been going down. You know what? I'm going to ask him the question that I was going to ask all you guys first. Let's bring Garry Cobb in now. And watch 29. I want to get Gary's thoughts here. We're going to go over the position room of safety here in a second. And I also want to go over my theory about Howie doing some shopping during the regular season. Mm-hmm. But I was going to ask this question, and I'll ask you first, Garry. Do you think the Eagles have the ability or the chance to be better than they were a year ago?
Yeah, well, I think, offensively, of course, they're going to be playing together, this whole group playing together again. So I definitely think the offense has room to be even better, which is amazing to say. I think that the offense is the strength of the team because they had the less losses. I mean, they lost, of course, Miles Sanders is not there, but, you see who they replace him with. And they have a chance to be better as a collective group than they were last year. So offensively, I think that they'll be further ahead. They really got used to each other and everything. Defensively is the question mark because, there are two places which I look at: the linebackers and the safeties. That's where these guys have got to show that, they can be, outstanding players. And so that's where I'm going to be looking. That's where I think everybody's going to be looking at. And I could see right now. Now, I'll tell you, at the camp, this kid Christian Ellis was out there making plays. Now, he's probably, start maybe as a backup to Nicholas Moreau, the kid from Chicago. But, Christian Ellis right away, I'm telling you, the kid he's picking off the ball.
He flashed.
Yeah, yes, he did.
And Garry,
he was making plays.
That's fabulous to hear. Now, Speaking of the linebacker position, I threw this out. The Eagles are around $14 million under the salary cap, and I opened the show with this. Because you and I both agree that Howie's going to make some type of move. But let's go here. Mm-hmm. Say the Buccaneers get out to a 2-5 start. They got a pretty tough start there. And all of a sudden you realize you're not going anywhere. You're already in salary cap hell. Yep. You've got Mike Evans out there. You've got Chris Godwin, and you've got Devin White at $11.7 million right now. Will he command 20? That's to be debated next year.
Yeah.
So maybe Howie sits back with that $14 million, Garry, and we're not going to be picking in the top 10. You're going to be picking at 32, 31, 30, 29, 28. That's what you're projecting.
Yeah.
So for me, don't you sit back if the Bucs are 2-5, maybe at the halfway point, and your run defense is not doing what you need, and you go like this to Jason Light, the GM of the Bucs. Tell you what, I'll give you the 32nd pick in the draft coming up in 2024, and pay a percentage of his salary.
This is Howie's strength right there. I know, imagine GMs around the league are probably saying, I don't want to, I feel comfortable doing business with the guy, but it seems like everybody that does his business with him comes out and they've got fleeced, but they don't realize it till after, the deal has been done. But he's done a great job of getting people. I mean, look, A.J. Brown. How do you get A.J. Brown at 25 years old? He's already been a Pro Bowler 2 or 3 years, and the team is letting him go? What do you. So he's going to see if he can do that. And, White down there, he's already shown he's a big-time player.
He's 25.
That's right. In big games, he's the same type of guy. So somewhere or another, he get a hold of somebody like that who wants to be in the spotlight. Of course, he's very comfortable in the spotlight, making plays. He's a big play guy, and he's the kind of guy that you need now because he's a linebacker that's got tremendous speed. He could run with the tight ends and the backs and all that. But he can even run with a wide receiver for a while, until he gets help. He's got that kind of speed.
He's a heck of a ball player, and
Yeah.
I would think if the Bucs, especially if they get out and on a bad note here, it would
make
Evans,
sense
you're
for
not
them.
going to pay a guy $20 million just to stay in Tampa to win 5 ball games.
That's right.
So maybe Howie sits back and, like you said, maybe this goes into the season, and especially with the weak NFC, maybe you can weather it, and then you see a team that becomes desperate because, like you said, Garry, this is what this guy's strength is making these type of deals like this to improve your football team. And I wouldn't have a problem going like this. Here's a 30-second pick for a guy that can help me win the Super Bowl, and then we'll worry about doing a contract March of 2024.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that's the kind of thing you do. And, you're going to get into the ear of that GM. You're talking to, his agent and everything. It's a deal that he wants to be playing in front of the nation. I mean, Tampa Bay starts out slow. They're not going to be on the tube. Nobody cares what's going on. And he's like, he's in the darkness, and he definitely wants to be shining with the bright lights on him and everything. So, he would like to come here. So
the Bucs are going to want to get picks.
Yeah. And they want picks because it's, their time is not now. Their time is in the future.
That's right.
They're just thinking picks it really fits them more than a guy that can play right now. They're just going to be wasted. His talent is wasted.
And think of this, Garry.
Yeah.
Even if he moves on, then the following year in 2025, you get a third-round comp pick if he goes into free agency. Mm-hmm. So you really don't lose anything in the process, and you gain a great player for a championship run. Correct. I talked about the safety room in the first hour, and I want to throw these at you here. Mm-hmm. I talked to Kevin Colbert. And I asked him he's the former general manager of the Steelers. And I asked him what he thought of Reed Blankenship. And this is what he said. He can play the run. He's a hitter.
Yeah.
He doesn't get fooled in the secondary too much when it comes to disguise coverages. He's got a nose for the ball. Mm-hmm. He's a technically sound tackler. The only problem and why he probably didn't get drafted is because he's not the most athletic guy. And he's not the fastest guy. Is that a fair evaluation? I mean, that's not a horrible one because he doesn't bite on decoys. He doesn't make false steps back there. Sounds to me like a solid guy that just needs reps.
Well, he really did a good job last year.
Especially Gardner Johnson got hurt.
Yeah, and so he stepped in there and. He's fundamentally sound. He's not a burner, but safeties like that have done well in the league because they know they've got to put in the work. That means they got to know when a formation is, what do they do out of this formation? What is this team going to be doing? They can't just be playing on athletic ability. And really, in the NFL, you're not supposed to be out there just playing on athletic ability because over time, it's going to cost you. You got to do your homework. And here's a kid, he knows he's got to do his homework. He's got to know what do these guys like doing? When do they like to do it? You got to have a good idea about what they're doing route-wise and everything. But he showed us last year that I think he showed that he's capable of playing on this level. He's capable of being very solid, and he's going to take advantage of things and come down with some big plays for you, because he got his hands on the ball. I mean, I got to admit, he came with a pick. I guess it was against Rodgers. I think it was Aaron Rodgers. He got a pick, and so he does a great job with disguising. He knows how important it is that these quarterbacks are reading what they're doing because most of the time they're reading those safeties. That's what they're trying to figure out where that coverage is. And so if you can disguise long enough, you're going to make everybody better because
he's a pretty headsy plaer.
Yes, he is. That's his strength. That's his strength because he's had to do that. He had to have the blazing speed and everything. So I think he's going to be fine. I think if anything, I expect him to be a big plus for the Birds this year, to where they're pleasantly surprised to see how well he plays. How
about this one here? Get this, and I think you're going to feel better about Terrell Edmunds because before Kevin Colbert stepped down as general manager, he was the GM all the way up until the draft, and they had to decide on Edmunds. And he said the room was split, coaches and personnel-wise, on whether or not to bring him back. So it wasn't like this. Hey, let's just get rid of the kid. Because people in Pittsburgh, they like player development. Yes. And they want you to get 2 and 3 contracts in Pittsburgh because they don't believe in spending money and coaching and then letting you go. That's not what they do there. There's a culture there. This is what he said about him. Is as athletic as ever, can run. Improved a little bit, and this is where they a lot of the room lost him a little bit, was that his ability to get better in coverage wasn't coming along, where he can get lost sometimes in coverage back there, and he can get lost. And he also said this: don't make your defense too complex, because if it's too wordy, he kind of gets a little bit lost also in that. You want to simplify it, so they simplified the secondary, and that's another reason why they kind of moved on. But he said he's a heck of a ball player, so if you're able to use him right, and Gary, I learned this about Hassan Reddick.
Yeah.
The defenses in Arizona and Carolina had a lot of words in it, and that was a real complex. Well, when they simplified it in Philly, and they got those 2 DTs, Reddick took off. So maybe that's how they see Terrell Edmonds here, and he could be kind of like, because you know what, to me, he looks like a strong safety version of TJ Edwards, kind of, in a way.
Well, that's what we're going to find out. And it's going to be interesting to see how to utilize him. Now, the other thing is, I know we're talking about, Blankenship and Edmonds and everything, but, the kid Sidney Brown, that they drafted, we're going to see what he does, whether he pushes these guys, because, he might have more athletic ability than them. He might have, the speed and size and everything, but I'm going to be interested to see how does the defensive coordinator, how does he integrate these guys? Are they going to come out and show everybody everything in the book? Or is he going to come out and gradually work these guys into where he's making it simple and everything? So it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. And, of course, they're going to be, doing what Nick Sirianni wants them to do, which is not give up big plays. And we'll see, how aggressive they are, because, they got a pass rush up there, but we're going to see whether they go after people with some blitzes.
I had a conversation with Lovie Smith over the weekend about Sidney Brown. I'll tell you one thing about that Illinois secondary. Almost every one of those guys was drafted in the top 3 rounds. I mean, he got some players there for the new coach that's down there now. And I'll tell you what, he said this about him. He's got a shot to be a 3-down safety. He's got amazing quickness. He's got a nose for the ball. And I didn't realize this, but he was a 4x100 kid in the state of Florida. And he was a state champion in the 4x100. So you're talking about a kid who's, like you were saying, he's quick twitch. He's an athlete.
That's right. Well, he's got
he just needs reps, right?
That's right. He's got that kind of speed in to see how fast does he come along. See, because he's going to be pushing and putting some things on there to where they're going to say, well, we got to let him on the field. So and he's got a chance to get in there on dime and all these different things. So will they use him in a specified way? Will they use him to where they figure, well, he's got to get in. If we got to have one of these guys play man to man, we want him playing man to man on that 4th wideout or something, So it'll be interesting to see how that works out and how they utilize him. And here in Philly, they're going to be talking. It's going to be a lot of yapping. So if anybody has a good game, they're going to be talking about how they played, or if they have a bad game, the pressure is going to be on there back in that defensive secondary. That's probably where there's going to be a lot of people looking, and at the linebacker position.
What do you think is a bigger question mark? The personnel on defense or the coordinator on defense?
I probably would say the coordinator. Initially, everybody's going to be looking at him, because whatever they do, they're saying, well, this is a place where we made a change, So the pressure is going to be on him early, I think. As the season goes along, then they'll get more chance to look at the linebackers and the safeties, because that's where they've made the changes. They didn't make changes really. They made the changes anywhere else. It's at the linebacker position and at the safety position. and they really run the show. Those are the guys that run the show on defense.
You think they're going to be aggressive, or do you think they're going to wait and see what they have here? I mean, because you just don't get a read. By the way, I found this out last night. You know, Vic Fangio is now the highest paid defensive coordinator in the National Football League.
Is that so?
The Dolphins had to do that. I know Vic said that, it all came down to Gannon and that whole fiasco, but Stephen Ross overpaid or paid more money to get him down there because he was probably going to sign on with Philadelphia. And now, if you're feeling this now leads me to believe this is why they brought Patricia in, because Desai was the second choice. Do you agree that Sean Desai was the second choice and coordinator now, knowing full well that Vic Fangio, the Dolphins overpaid to get him, and they brought Matt Patricia in? So, Gary, it kind of looks like, are they sold one? You think the Eagles are 100% sold on Sean Desai?
I think I agree with what you said about the fact that he might have been the second choice. See, I agree with you there, and with the fact that Fangio was involved with already involved with what they were doing, so that's not really a stretch to see that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, and he's got pressure on him. There's no doubt about it. He got to know that he's got to deliver, because I think that they expect big things. This team is not expecting to just fade away. They expect to be in the dance. I think they expect to be going back. I really do.
Two last questions for you.
Yeah.
What's Brian Johnson's number one job this year as offensive coordinator with the Eagles?
I think the big thing that he's got to do is, you want to spread the ball around. You got to, get everybody involved. I think that's the major thing, is try to keep everybody happy. But he's going to be on the attack right away. They go after people. They're going to be playing in this way. Nick Sirianni likes to play. We're jumping out to a lead, and then we're going to run the ball later on. And but we're jumping out. We're coming out. We're going to attack you before you even get off the bus. That's the way he likes to play. So they're going to be throwing the ball. They got all these weapons. So it's a matter of him keeping everybody happy. That's going to be the thing, because these guys want the ball. Last year, AJ Brown, you can see he's capable of saying, "Hey, man, you guys forget I'm here. I want the ball." So that's where he's got to keep everybody happy. That's going to be the challenge.
Last question for you here. Dak just had a birthday the other day. You think Dak's the answer in Dallas, or do you think he's the problem in Dallas?
I think Dak is, he's especially when he came on, when he got there early in his career and everything, and he was a surprise. But I think he's been a disappointment. He hasn't been able to take them up to the next level. So, he's been a disappointment, and I think he's circled right now. And if he doesn't have a big year, I don't think he's going to be there next year. I'll tell you that right away.
I'm not paying $50 million for 2 playoff wins. You're 2-4, dude.
No way. Especially, as I said before, he had been the problem. He was the reason they've lost in the playoffs. He hasn't played well. So this is a big year for him. A lot of pressure on Dak down there.
Absolutely, Gary. We're 17 days away from training camp. What were you thinking right now?
Hey, I have my behind out running. That's what I'm doing. I'm running, man. I'm running. Because the little lady be saying, "What are you doing? What are you?" Hey, they're gonna be running us. I got to be able to run all day, so I be getting up in the morning, get my running in, man. Because you go in there and your legs feel good and everything else works out.
Hey, you know what? May I have permission, because you're not going to believe this. Rich Dalrymple sent me a picture of Gary Cobb with the flat top. And before I post it, I got to send it to Gary to get the okay. Holy cow, man. He's same old smile. He don't look any different. A little younger, of course, but that old flat top, man, squared up, man.
Well, and there was a group. What was the name of that group? there was this guy. He wore his hair like that. They was you look
Cameo.
Like Cameo. That's right. Cameo. It was the Cameo. That's right.
Every time Garry walk in the locker room, we're like, "Damn, man, Mr. Blackburn there, Mr. Blackwell, how you doing?"
That's right. That's right.
Garry, thank you, my friend. 17
right.
days of training camp. It's right around the corner. I appreciate it.
Getting it ready.
You getting it ready. Thank you so much. Don't forget, catch Garry Cobb, Fox 29 in Philadelphia. Also, hour number 3, we're going to have Bobby Valentine. Please hit the like button. We'll reset everything. Some of the questions I want to throw at you, we'll do that next. Keep it here on the National Football Show.